Hi, I'd like to talk about manipulative advertising. Now, I know all advertising is manipulative, but I'm more interested in talking about the type of advertising that is predatory or abusive. Um, in this day and age, they consider everything when they make an advertisement or a commercial or an infomercial. They think about the colors that they're going to use. Um, Well, just about everything that the customer is going to see is considered from various aspects, whichever senses are going to be involved. So they'll think about the music, and they'll think about the image and the pictures used on the cover or on the box or bag or whatever. They'll think about the colors they want to use for their brand. And they'll give all sorts of other considerations that involve psychology. And they will manipulate you. So, some of it's based on hunger, or some of it's based on fear, some of it's based on sex, some of it's based on wanting to belong, various other basic motivations that humans generally have. Greed is a big one. I'm not sure which is bigger, greed or fear, but they're both big tools that are used in marketing. So let's focus on the ones that prey on your fears and your insecurities. And these are the ones that I personally, if I had the option to, I would ban them forever. Like when I lived in Indonesia, one of the ones that I saw a lot was there was a war going on between different deodorant companies. So between the dry deodorants, the powders, and then the wet deodorants, which are more common here in America. Traditionally, the powdered deodorants were dominant, as was the powdered soap. But as time passed, because it's more profitable to sell a wet soap than a dry soap, and a wet deodorant than a dry one, I guess, these companies would, make the dry products look bad. So I remember, when I was young in America, there were advertisements about detergents that would clump in the washing machine, and so it was determined that from the standpoint of your clothes coming out with lumps of detergent stuck to them, that this was, and reasonably so, not good. But instead of providing a solution, the companies that produced liquid detergents instead waged a war against the powdered detergents, based on just that thing, lumps, and it was fairly successful. In Indonesia, what they would do is the liquid deodorant companies would make these advertisements focusing on how if you didn't correctly apply the powder, that you would end up with what they called porridge underarm. Yeah, like, oatmeal under your arm. And, obviously, if you learn to apply the powder correctly, it's not going to happen. But it had a big impact on the powdered deodorant industry in Indonesia. And they did another thing between the deodorants that would make your underarm look wet and the deodorants that wouldn't allow that to happen. So it was further narrowing the market, I guess you could say. And but the motivation that they used was preying on people's insecurities that, oh my God, I'm sweating. God forbid that I should ever sweat. God forbid that I should have a sweaty underarm. This is just unacceptable. I have to find a solution that's going to stop my underarms from sweating. Now, personally, I don't use antiperspirants because I don't believe it's a good idea for us to stop our bodies from doing what they do in terms of temperature regulation through sweating. But they targeted people who were insecure about their physical appearance, about their image, so that to the point where they wouldn't buy any products that would potentially cause them embarrassment. And another big one, and possibly even bigger in Indonesia, is because of 3.5 centuries of domination by the Dutch and the Portuguese in Indonesia, the Indonesians had this opinion that having white skin or lighter colored skin was desirable. And not only desirable, but it also signified that you were clean and that you were beautiful. And they would make advertisements that would prey on women's insecurities about this, especially because it was okay if a man was dark, but for a woman to be dark, it was not so good. Women who are dark in Indonesia are typically considered to be of a lower class. They're considered to be maids and nannies and farmers and things like that. So they were looked down upon. I mean, my wife was a darker skinned woman, and she was mistaken for maids and nannies and even prostitute on occasion, which was very, very frustrating for us. But they put it in a way that it made it look socially unacceptable to have dark skin, and it got to the point where when you wanted to go to the grocery store or wherever to buy lotion for your skin, you could not find lotion that did not have whitener in it. Now, some of them they just used jicama for whitener or some other natural product, but others, they were using unnatural products that would whiten the skin. And I didn't want to whiten my skin. My skin is plenty white enough as it is. I get burned out if I'm out in the sun for too long, and I was very, very unhappy that I could not find lotion without skin whitener in it. So, but the way they promoted it was to play upon this sense that if your skin isn't white, you're inferior, you're not beautiful, you're dirty. And so, I even talked to some men, and I explained, there's a risk with some whiteners that your mate could get cancer. And some of them wanted to reconsider the use of lotion or whatever with whitener in it, but other men didn't care. They were so focused on image that they didn't care if their wife might end up with cancer. Now, having lost my wife to cancer, I can quite readily say that it's not cool to not care that your wife might get cancer. In fact, you're an asshole. Okay? That's how I feel about those men who would prefer that their wives be using potentially dangerous products to whiten their skin at the risk of getting cancer. You're assholes. You don't deserve to have a wife or a partner. And for the women, I'd encourage you to just stop doing that to yourselves and stop taking unnecessary risks. Anyways, and in America we have this kind of stuff as well. We have these advertisements that imply or state that you need to look a certain way or do a certain thing or eat a certain food in order to be attractive. I've never been overly concerned with my external appearance. Maybe it's because my parents didn't put a lot of emphasis on external appearance. I'm not really sure. But to me, the whole thing about looking beautiful and stuff like that, I didn't really care about. I don't really think that's something that's very important. The whole idea of trying to watch your weight and exercise to have a healthy body, that's something entirely different. That's about your health. That's not about appearance. But I would like to say to any marketers out there that if you're using tactics that prey on people's insecurities to get your products sold, or you're making them scared so that they want to buy your products, you're scum. You haven't got morals or ethics, and you're doing something that's hurtful. It intensifies people's fears and insecurities instead of alleviating them, and you're damaging society by putting these fears into the heads of people who don't have them yet. So shape up, stop hurting people mentally, emotionally with your bullshit, and use responsible marketing to sell your products. Don't prey on people. So that's my little piece on predatory marketing. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.